So, the plan for this session is to start prone. Just like this. Yep. Belly down. All right. So, what we're going to do is start with the feet about as wide as the hips, give or take. A couple inches on either side. We'll let the arms go out, kind of wide, but should also feel real comfortable. So we're going to clock about a minute here in this Sphinx pose, and then we'll settle in a little deeper. So as you get this opening pose established, you're welcome to adjust the legs a little. Maybe you want to go even wider, maybe a bit closer in. We kind of started at a nice default. You will likely find that from this prone position, belly down, letting your heels just gently fall out where the toes point a little more toward each other. That'll probably be really palatable for your back. And it'll relax the glutes. Next, let's make a little pillow with the hands and bring the forehead down. Just keeping your forehead down. Make any other little adjustments you need to down in the feet, up through the thighs, at the front of the waist, around the pubic bones, front of the hips, and then any minor little adjustments you might want to make around the shoulders. Seeing to it that the neck feels long. The head feels like it points straight ahead. And yet you can relax into it. And we're just hanging out here for a couple minutes. No hurry. And at first, just notice what you notice. So I think it's safe to assume we're all noticing elements coming through the 5 sensory doorways. I'm sure there are many more, but some sounds and maybe not too many sights and some tactile feedback. And also some stuff that may be a little bit more self-generated, thoughts arising, just an overall feeling tone as we open up our practice here. Just for the next couple minutes, see if you can drop into the breath sensations that are there. In a way, once we've made this conscious decision to notice breathing, we don't really have to do much from there. It's just, there it is. It's a content of consciousness. And there's still all the other stuff, sensations, data that comes up. So just for the last minute or two, kind of hone in on breathing sensations. Be open to the whole panoply of sensory awareness that bubbles in, whatever it is, including thoughts. Just gonna be in that position of noticing, witnessing. bit less judgment, reactivity. Maybe even dropping with a sense of grasping or repelling. Just being in that space of openness. And leaning into breath sensations. Last minute. So let's transition just ever so slightly, everybody, essentially back up to our opening pose, where we're in a little bit of a Sphinx position. And then here we're letting the elbows splay just a little bit wider. And then let the head turn to one side. Just ease your head back up to the center. Now this should be pretty obvious, but as you're turning, you want to get enough turn so you've got clearance for your nose. And whether you wind up setting down your temple or your jaw or your cheek or your chin or your ear, or likely some overlap of those aforementioned spots, just kind of find your way. Oh. And then once in a while, that's a very vague term, every 20, 30 seconds, maybe even a little faster, just lift up your head, center it, and find the new side. So when you're on your side, you've got options. You can just be very relaxed. You can let the head kind of be extra heavy on the ground. As I mentioned earlier, you can deliberately put down a slightly different part of the side of your head. You can explore keeping your shoulders totally relaxed, which will probably mean they lift a little bit towards your ears, but gently. Or you can work on letting the shoulders pull down a little more. Further, and this is one we rarely explore, you could even do little bits of isometric work. So when you're down, for instance, in addition to the obvious quality of just relaxing into it, you could push the head into the floor. So you actually, in that situation, bring on a little neck tension, but productive tension, because you're adding like a strengthening movement for a moment. So last few. Ooh, those isometric pushes can actually feel really, really good. It's a nice combination of like, you do a little strengthening, you do a little relaxing, you do a little lifting and range of motion. It's a good combo. Let's zero back in on straight ahead. Prop back up into a little more Sphinx. So then we're going to bend one leg. I've bent the left. And you can get the Sphinx pose any way you like at this point. And then simply point and flex through your left foot. Point and flex through that left foot. Just a couple more. And you can take it into stretch mode if you want, but it's also fine to just take it easy. Just focus on the movement, feel it, and not feeling compelled to push. Oh man. And let's release that. And go to leg number 2. For me, the right. Okay. And what are we doing? Right at the ankle joint, flexing, pointing. There may be a little bit of independent work manifesting directly in the toes, but officially it's just an ankle movement. Flex and point. We're maintaining some variation of the Sphinx, but some variation is purposely a little vague, as you can change the arm position a little, you can come down a little lower, you could prop up a little higher. Last couple. Okay, and then let's release that. So then let's go to leg left. Now she's long and extended, and we're going to tuck under the toes and lift the knee and lower the knee. Lift the knee and lower the knee. So this is a nice strong quadricep activity. In fact, there's so much stabilization through the front of your kneecap that you can see, obviously, the back of the knee iron out. And then that little bend manifests again. Two more. Oh man, that feels good. Okay, then let's switch sides. So now we're going to leg number 2, for me the right. Toes are tucked. I squeeze that thigh off the ground. Drop it. Squeeze it off the ground. Release. Squeeze. And release. Give it one more good go. And then Release that. Okay. So next, let's go to leg number 1. For me, the left. And then just barely rock it out in neutral standing. So the shin and the foot go wide, a little bit wide. I'm super tight here, so the demo is not going to look like much is happening. This is my neutral. Shin stands up like a water bottle. And this is my non-neutral. Neutral. Outward. I think most of you have probably got this clarified in your body, but just as to make sure there is no misapprehension with the terms. If you're watching me or yourself on the screen, or even just your body with your eyes turned backward, your shin goes out, your foot goes out, and then they stack up neutral. But the movement prior to shin and foot going out, the real deal of this pose, is that the femur bone, the big upper thigh bone, that's just resting on the floor, actually turns in a little bit. So this is inward rotation in your hip, resulting in a shin and foot that drop out. Oh my God, that feels so good. And then release, and let's do leg number 2. For me, the right one. I'm going to get a few extra ribs down for this part of the sequence, just to modify how this whole bend feels on my back. So there's my non-neutral, there's neutral. So I'm keeping basically the hip points on the ground. Those are good landmarkers. The pubic bones on the ground, good landmarkers. Most of the femur that's doing the inward rotation, flush to the mat. Oh my God. And for those of you that are more supple, you're going to see a lot more movement. I'm getting about, and it's really not all about these degrees, right? I mean, I could not mention a single degree, and you just feel it out and explore and do it for that reason. But if you're going to break it down, and just to be clear, when my foot goes out, I've only moved about 7, 8, maybe 10 degrees. Some of you guys might move 30, 40 degrees. I've seen it before. So yours might look a little different. Oh. Let's try the last one, lean into it. Feels amazing. And then let's release that. Okay. Almost done with this belly down shape. We're going to come back up to something more Sphinx-like. It's all been kind of Sphinx-like, but varying degrees of level to the ground. We'll bend both legs and just let the hips rock a little side to side. Few rocks. You might even do it where one foot just kind of leans into the inner edge of the other shin. Feet like stay connected in that way. It actually feels really, really good. Oh my God. And the last move from down here, bring it on back to center. Assume another last position here from belly down. Assume another shape where you can bring your head down. Maybe even down all the way. Some people need that little lift just so it doesn't feel weird on the nose. But if you can come down like this, go for it. And then for about a minute or maybe even 2, just glute squeezes. Now, probably for most of us to get these glute squeezes a little more powerful, you're going to want to not let your heels churn out. Let them come a little closer together. That's going to give you more power over your glutes. Your thighs are probably going to do a little bit of external rotation, but it's really not a focus, but it's probably going to happen. Your feet are probably going to be in point mode, but you can experiment. And you can really set off on any pace for yourself. 2-to-1 contraction versus relaxation. 10-to-1 contraction versus relaxation. It would be like, hold it for a long time and only relax for a brief beat. You could go back and forth, right cheek, left cheek, left cheek, or like the official instructions here, and like I happen to be working just both sides every time, just working them pretty actively and deliberately, but then a quick relaxation in between. Last 30 seconds. Right. So, I've decided to slip in one bonus exercise here before we flip. Last move. We're going to walk the feet close together, relatively. We're going to lengthen the arms straight down along the side. I probably call this thing way too many names, but sometimes I'll call it like a letter L, like a lowercase L. Sometimes an I, like a lowercase I. Extended arms, though, right along your side, kind of like a soldier if you were standing. Might even be a little karate chop in your hands. For me, the thumbs are close to the ground and the pinkies are up toward the sky. So we've got some business to attend to here, y'all. So, you want to put some squeeze in your glutes. Put some tuck in your chin. Then you want to put a little tuck in your shoulders, the heads of the shoulders. Drop a little bit down away from the ears. The blades of the shoulders start to squeeze more toward each other. The triceps fully activate so your arms are as long as they can be. And then and only then, just barely lift the arms off the ground. And release. That's so golden. Okay, so just to clarify, because we're on pace for another 6 to 12 of these guys, you've got relatively narrow legs, but experiment. Pretty strong glutes, but you can experiment with how strong. A tucked position for your chin, but negotiate with your nose, obviously. Shoulder head slightly down away from ears. Shoulder blades slightly toward each other. Whew. Triceps working. Arms lifted. Oh my God. And release and repeat another 6 times. This one's so good. It's, you know, so many levels, so many reasons. All right. Last couple. Want to really, we're working these guys. Oh my goodness, those feel so necessary. All right, so we are transitioning. That was nearly 30 minutes of belly down work. We're not transitioning too far though, everybody. So, you're going to need to be in a position where you can still reference the screen, but the plan is to come onto our back. I think I'm going to keep my arrangement this way just so the sound is optimized. Whew. So please come onto your back. And when you first get there, everybody, just let your head, oh my God, gently range left to right. Feel free to linger for a moment in the end ranges. Feel free to modify a little, maybe a little chin tuck. Maybe a little more counter stretch the opposite arm. So a head right would mean a left arm has a little downward charge. Or obviously head left would mean a little downward charge of that right arm. Oh, God. And please everybody zero back in on the midline. Just get centered. This one's deceivingly simple. I mean, it is simple, so maybe it's not deceiving at all, because it is simple. Just reach one arm, kind of flagpole-like, but a relaxed flagpole. To a degree that's possible. Oh, God. So what are we doing here? We're just letting the wrist line up over the elbow line up over the shoulder, the back of the shoulder really merged with your mat. And to the degree you're able to, essentially the whole weight of your arm is kind of merged into your shoulder joint. Just feel it out. Be here for a few more breaths. What's your relationship to this one shoulder right now when it's just set in neutral? Okay. Let's... Oh my God, that feels good. So strange. Alright. New arm. So we have the new arm up, everybody. It's active enough to find straight up and down. And it's passive enough that it doesn't feel like you're working it. I get some really pleasant sensations in kind of the back of the shoulder joint, the sort of upper outer edge of the shoulder blade, where like the arm kind of plugs in. And you're just letting gravity have the arm and your torso and your head, but just not letting the arm flop. One more big breath here. Oh, man. Whew. Okay, now we're going back to arm number 1. And we're going to take that arm number 1. For me, it's my right hand, but for you, just whatever was arm number 1. And just reach it over to your left shoulder somewhere. Maybe you reach to the top of your shoulder, the outer edge of your shoulder. Maybe you reach just above the shoulder on the ground, just beyond the shoulder, out onto the ground, like instead of above it, out beyond it. I can't even reach out there without really twisting. So I'm just going to find somewhere where I can reach, kind of just barely. Oh, why does that feel so good? Now your head can do little pivots here, but it probably doesn't have a lot of room to explore. Oh, goodness, that feels nice. Now, zero the head back into the midline. Retract your right arm from over here on the left side of your body. And come back to 2 relaxed arms. Now we're going to arm number 2. For me it's the left, but for you whatever was the second side you're working. For me now, left hand reaches over to right shoulder. Maybe just above it on the ground. Maybe just beyond it on the ground. Maybe just right on it. Oh. And again, for me, if I try to reach too far, too far is, I guess, a bit of an amorphous term, but at some point I can kind of tell, like, well, 1, my fingers don't hit the ground, and 2, if I wanted them to, I'd probably have to twist my spine more than just reach my shoulder. And then everybody please release that. Simple stuff. That actually feels really, really good. We're going to just try that one more time. Same exact thing. Arm number 1, right for me, reaches across. I let it hang out above the shoulder, beyond the shoulder, but maybe somewhere on the ground. Feel free to let the head rotate a little bit off the midline. We didn't do that on the other side. To make sure we get that. God. Last time, just the second time through. So it's new arm, left from me. Goes beyond the shoulder, or above the shoulder, or onto the shoulder, a little more conservatively. And then slowly, everybody, ease that arm back to center. Head back to center. Oh, I didn't cue it. My bad. Let's get over here one more time, just in case. I want to make sure we're even. You do want to give the head a little chance to explore off the midline here. My mistake. Please, everybody, as you're ready, midline with the head, back to neutral with your arm. Alright, thanks for hanging in on that one. So we're going to center the head. We're going to catch left knee with left hand, right knee with right hand. Just do little forward and backward gestures. So basically one knee or one foot pushing toward one side of your mat, toward like the foot part of your mat, until it locks out that elbow. And then one foot, one knee, one hip, pulling in until you just hit the end range based on your own call. So you're going to base that on how it feels, your mood, whether you want to stay a little bit beneath, like full stretch mode, or whether you want to go into full stretch mode. It also will change depending on how much of your sacrum you keep weighted down onto the floor, or whether you let it curl a little bit. Last few. We're going to extend the left leg, everybody, along the floor. Catch hold of that right one that we've been hugging on, but both hands can help. And then just massage the hip in a little circle. So we can, you see your knee doing a circle. Kind of the real action is to deepen your hip joint. And I suppose we could try to get this granular, but to me it seems a bit tedious. 360 degrees. But maybe a better compromise, it's still somewhat granular. Just feel every hour on the clock. There's 12, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5, there's 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 9, there's 10, there's 11, I'm back to 12. Right, so that's a pretty good kind of interior space to inhabit, is to just go to sense you're moving along those hours. of an old school analog clock. And then at some point soon, go counterclockwise. So still touch those same 12 hours. Oh, God. Let's start to wrap this up, everybody, on this hip. Oh, God. And release with 2 bent knees. Catch left leg, new leg, in case left doesn't make sense for you. New leg long. Now, chances are when we start out on the circle, on this side we started counterclockwise. It's fine, doesn't matter, as long as we wind up switching. Now, ultimately, we could break it into 360 degrees, 60 minutes on the clock, or just these big hour markers. So let's just stick with the hour markers. And try to feel your hip or your femur in the hip socket. This ball and socket. Circling. And touching every hour. We're almost done. Wrap it up with the opposite direction on the clock. Finishing up this second leg. Okay, folks, let's release and rest 2 flat feet on the floor, 2 feet on the ground. Let the knees fall together. That's essentially a version of what we did, belly down, when we drop shins and feet out. Now from here, what we're going to do is bring the hands along the sides of the waist, right around the lowest ribs. And breathe in such a way so that you can really feel, even accentuate inhalations that expand out into your hands. And exhalations that draw away from your hands toward your interior midline. So you can feel the natural course of events here. Inhalations are just naturally inclined to broaden the space, distend the belly a little, fill up. And these exhalations will see the opposite pattern manifest. There's a slight corseting. Your belly drops away from the sky. You empty. Now for the last 10 breaths, See if you can really lean into these features. And if you'd rather, you can let your knees come neutral. And really for the last 8 breaths, everybody, lean into the exhale features in particular. Like a sheath of core strength that you can call on with every exhalation, wrapping around your trunk. So you're working, the transverse abdominis that wrap around the waistband, but also side muscles, obliques, intercostals, some rib muscles. And in these last half dozen, you can also add the Mula Bandha feature. So that means you lean into not only all the aforementioned stuff along the sides of the waist, but the pelvic floor muscles. So that on inhalation they relax, they soften, they broaden. And on exhale, they contract, they squeeze, they narrow, they tighten, they draw in and out. Last couple rounds. Really accentuating the exhale. Last round. So from here, everybody, we're going to do a slow shift. That might have seemed fast. Into a child's pose before we hit Shavasana. Welcome to add your own little modifications to this one. You can really rock the hips back, reach the arms forward, and even out to one side. Oh, goodness. You could elect just to relax into it for a few big breaths. You could thread the arms backward or even through. All right, everybody. So, last pose. Breaking with tradition a little bit. I'm going to offer up, because we've spent so much time on our belly and back, you can sit for like a corpse-like seat. Not that it's corpse pose, because you're sitting, so it's different kind of energy to harness. But in other words, not like a specific breathing meditation or really meditation of any sort. Just sit and let go. Sit like a rock would in the bottom of a stream. The other two options, of course, would be belly down one more time. Maybe you've come to love it so much this session you want 5 more minutes of prone. Or, of course, always a viable option. It's the one I'm actually going to lean into. Is good old corpse pose just on your back. So whether you've selected belly down or belly up or seated, own it. Relax into it. And experiment with letting go. Mind wide open. Sarvesham Svasti Bhavantu. Sarvesham Shanti Bhavantu. Sarvesham Puranam Bhavantu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavantu. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May all beings attain fullness. May all beings attain auspiciousness. If I'm not mistaken, that was the opening to the RNC convention. All right. I try not to get too political here. All right. So let's come on up to a comfortable seat. I know some of you may have closed with the seat. Some of you might have closed with traditional corpse. But let's come back up. Everybody. Thank you so much for practicing yoga together. That was a nice, slow, soothing session. I hope it felt good. Namaste.